Welcome back, everybody, to part 3 of my Breyerfest live show guide, specifically talking about the youth and children's show, but most of the general information in this show guide can be applied to any show. So in this one, I'm going to go into the mind of a judge a little bit, because I'm kind of getting to that point where I would like to judge shows, and I just want to explain to you a little bit about how I think. And the important thing to keep in mind during this video is that every judge is different, and that's what really makes the live show world of the model horse hobby a very diverse and interesting one, because you can go to a bunch of different shows and have a bunch of different outcomes, because every judge has their own opinions and their own thoughts on certain molds. So a mold that I might prefer, another judge might not, and they might prefer another mold over mine, and that's how you get the diversity in model horse show placings. So if your horse does not place well in the youth show or other shows, do not be discouraged. You can always try changing the breed, and then you can also just, wait and see, and sometimes they will have their day because all judges think differently. So first, I'm going to talk about the ABCs. This is how I tend to think. It stands for anatomy, breed, and condition. So anatomy talks about the conformation of the mold, and this is really nothing that you can change. It's just how I've organized classes in my head. So I have certain molds that I prefer for thoroughbreds and Arabians and warm bloods and, stock horses. I kind of have all of that already figured out in my mind. So for example, for Arabians, I really do prefer the Ashquar mold, and then followed by that would be the Weather Girl mold. So those are my top 2 Arabian molds. And then, not Shameless, but I forgot what the mold is called. But the Shameless mold, the classic Arabian molds, Pam, the Proud Arabian Mare mold. Those are not my preferred molds, but I've seen a lot of other judges who really prefer the Pam mold, and that's where you get that kind of that difference. So that's just an example of that, and that's not something that you can change. That's just how certain judges think, and that's where the difference and the diversity comes from. Next is the breed. This is something that you can change and you do have control over. This is about can the model be the breed that it has been assigned? So this is where knowing like I mentioned before, your breed standards, your conformation, and your colors comes into play. If I see, I love the Lonesome Glory mold as a thoroughbred. That's one of my top thoroughbred molds. So if I see someone showing they're one of their Quiel Surprise, or one of those surprise models from the recent years, the Chestnut Overo or the Buckskin Tobiano as a thoroughbred, or even the Appaloosa as a thoroughbred, that's when you kind of run into the issue of the pattern does not fit the breed, and that's where your color information comes in. So I would not place any of those models as a thoroughbred, even though I love the mold as a thoroughbred, because Appaloosa, Buckskin, and Tobiano and Overo patterns do not appear in the thoroughbred gene pool. So it's not possible for those models to be that breed. So knowing all of that information is really, really important. And then we have condition is the final thing, and this is really what can set your model apart from others that are very similar to it. So, for example, rubs, shading, markings all comes into play. If your model has scratches, shiny marks, or rubs on it, that's going to make it, a model that does not have those things. It could be the same exact model as yours. If it does not have those things, it will place higher than your model will. And even if your model is perfectly LSQ, if there is a model on the same mold with better shading and or markings, even those could place that model above yours. So those are things that are kind of out of your control. If your model does have rubs or shiny marks, you can try to fix them. But as far as crispness of markings or shading, that's really judges' preference, whether they like a darker model over a lighter model, and that kind of thing. And the biggest factor when you're showing is not your own entry, but what else is on the table, and that's really the biggest thing that's kind of out of your control. So it's not just what your model is and the breed and references and every work and all the stuff that you put into your own entry, but it's what else is on the table, and sometimes there's just better models on the table that the judge will prefer over yours. So in all, when you're showing in this show, you just have to have fun and don't be discouraged if your model doesn't place very well. really the Youth and Children's Show is a learning opportunity, and you can always improve. So just take what you get and what you place in this show and really try to improve upon it, and I'm sure that all of you will become great showers in the end. So thank you so much for watching my live show guide. If you're interested in having kind of a practice run for the Youth and Children's Show, I'm actually hosting a live model horse photo show on YouTube called Breyerfest Blues that will be closing on July 5th, right before Breyerfest, and I will try to have it placed in and the results up before the first day of Breyerfest. So please enter that if you're interested. I'm really looking for a lot of entries for that show. But thank you so much for watching this 3-part installment of this Breyerfest live show guide. Please take all of this information, all these tips, close to your heart and really try to apply them. And I hope that all of you find success either at this show or in future shows. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. And I wish you all the best of luck on the Breyerfest Youth and Children's Show Day or in any of your upcoming shows that you have. Bye, guys.